Alrighty, I got my coffee. I'm ready to hit the road. We are going to a place called the One-of-a-Kind Antique Mall. I've never been there before. I only heard about it recently, which is crazy because this place is huge. And it's called an antique mall, but it's also like a lot of retro toys. And the way I found out about this place was a YouTube video. And it was these guys that are into retro toys. Like, they're into finding the old Star Wars toys and old G.I. Joes, and they go to these different places where you'd find that kind of stuff. And they go to this place, and it's funny because in the video, they're showing all the stuff they're seeing, but it's mostly the stuff they're interested in, right? So they're showing the G.I. Joes and the Star Wars toys and talking about when this toy came out or when that toy came out. And there's one part where they pan across this glass cabinet. And they're like, oh yeah, there's some Game Boys. And they just pan across. They don't stop. They don't look at them. They're just like, oh yeah, there's some Game Boys in this cabinet. Well, all these Game Boys were modified. I don't know to what extent, obviously. I think it was mostly Game Boy Colors and DMGs. But they all had aftermarket shells, different colored buttons, different colored screen bezels. I'm assuming they had aftermarket screens in them, but who knows? They could just be stock screens and just done up to look nice. I assume there's some more video game stuff there. In this video, again, they did sometimes say, oh, here's a video game, or like, here's a Super Nintendo game, or something like that, but they didn't pay too much attention to the video game stuff. So yeah, I don't know how much video game stuff is going to be there, how good the pricing is going to be. I'm mostly just going there to look. Again, I've never been here before, and like, it's this huge, again, they call it an antique mall. It's multiple floors, and I assume it's been there for many, many, many years. And yet, again, somehow I had never heard of it, or, you know, maybe I heard someone mention it and just thought, oh, okay, whatever, like an antique store. You know, it wasn't until I saw this video and I'm like, hey, wait, that place is not that far from me. And also, it's huge. So, yeah, we are definitely going to be checking that out today. And hopefully I can show you, you know, I don't want to have my phone out and film the whole time I'm in there. But hopefully I can show you some stuff. I definitely want to show you those Game Boys. So yeah, I guess I'll show you the place when we get there. All right, we're here. Pictures cannot do this place justice. It is huge. I've been to many places like this before. I think this is the biggest one I've ever been to. It's 3 floors, and it's just humongous. It is an antique store, but it's like collectibles and action figures,
So many pop figures, lots of Pokemon cards, lots of Amiibos, any kind of action figure or like GI Joes or Star Wars action figures, anything like that you're looking for, you will find it here. So we got that out of the way. Now we're going to look at video games. Right away, I see some video games. All right, some boxed Super Nintendo sports games. Ninja Gaiden 2 for $30. Is that a decent price? I don't know. Super Mario Brothers 2 for $50. That definitely seems expensive. It did say with manual, though. Bunch of loose NES games there. We got Duke Nukem for PlayStation. Some loose Game Boy games. What do you got? Donkey Kong Land 2 for $20. Game & Watch Gallery for $15. Those seem okay. This one, though, definitely not. This one caught my eye. This is the PAL version of the classic Super Nintendo Mini. $300. There's no way. I've seen the Japanese ones for sale on Facebook Marketplace. I want to say at one point like $100, and then they had gone up to like $150. I would say $150, maybe. Understandable, but yeah, $300. That's definitely like twice what it's worth for sure. Bunch of loose, well, a bunch of everything in here really. Some boxed Genesis games, some loose Genesis games. I can see a Nintendo, some loose NES games back there, and some of those 8-bit Christmas. There was like 5 of those 8-bit Christmas things in here, but you can't see the price on them for some reason. Some of them had the price on the top of the cartridge, like the edge, and some of them had them on the front. It's a Nintendo 64 with a controller for $130. That seems a little high, but you know, what do you expect in a place like this? Now, keep in mind, every booth is owned by a different person. So you might find an N64 in one booth that's way overpriced, and you might find another one in another booth that's a reasonable price. It just depends. Again, those loose NES games, Blades of Steel for $15. That seems okay. Was that Mega Man? Is that Mega Man 3 for 60? I don't know about that. I honestly don't know. Some of these prices seem okay, and then some of them seem like too high. Ninja Gaiden 2 is at $65. Again, is that reasonable? I don't know. Seems kind of high, but I don't know. This booth, I didn't take a lot of video of random booths, especially if they weren't video games, but like this just gives you an idea. This is all Hot Wheels in one booth. And this wasn't the only booth that was all Hot Wheels, so yeah. And then some Nintendo Power magazines, kind of cool. They were all, I think, like $15 or $20, which I don't know. Again, that's like reasonable, maybe. Those are getting expensive. Random pocket watches, I don't know. I thought those were cool. Back to video games. All right, some loose Game Boy games and N64 games. You can see a bunch of the Pokemon games for the GBA, and if you're guessing those are probably fake, you are correct. Those are all fake. Super fake. No prices on them. What's up with that? Is he selling these for like $15, or is he selling these for like $150? Trying to pass off the fakes as being really mint condition. I'm willing to bet $150. No price on them, but they're fake. As a Game Boy Color for $95. That's a little high, but honestly, I see a lot for like $80 these days if they're in good shape and they have the battery cover. So it's not terrible. More loose NES games. A couple of boxed Master System and Genesis. Obviously some Wii. There was lots of booths. There was sometimes just racks of like PS2 or like Xbox 360. I didn't necessarily get a picture of everything. You know, obviously expects just lots of Xbox 360, lots of PlayStation 2. You know, even some game. There's lots of game. I didn't take pictures of everything. There's another N64 for 110 with a yellow controller, so that's a little more reasonable than the first one we saw, wasn't it? And looking in here, lots of box goodies. I see a boxed Mario 2, a boxed Mario 3. I see some boxed Game Boys. Oof. Look at that. $400? Oh, man. Is that even... I don't know, man. Like, I had a boxed Game Boy, and regret. Don't think about it. Yeah, I don't know. I might pay like 200 or 250 for that, but 400 at that point, I'll just buy like a repro box off AliExpress for like $30. You know, for me, that just does the same thing. I've got lots of Game Boys. I could, put one in a repo box if I really wanted to have it on the shelf in the box. I'm not spending $400 on one. There's like the later Game Boy where it didn't come with Tetris. I don't think it came with the headphones or the link cable. It was basically like just the Game Boy, the basic set. The Game Boy and 4 AA batteries. And what is the price on that, say? $225, I think. That's what it says. It's a little more reasonable, right? I still wouldn't buy it, but it's cool. It's cool to see. And they're in pretty good shape. A bunch of Atari games and some boxed... Actually, I don't know what those are. Just Atari games. They're all in like plastic things to protect them, which is cool. There was lots of loose DS games. I typically didn't pay too much attention to those, but if you're into DS, there was lots of like Wii, DS, 360, PS2, PS3. A bunch of loose Game Boy games, including a bunch of Pokemon games. These ones are probably real. This is the same booth that had the boxed Game Boys. Yeah, so lots of loose Game Boy games there. Lots of loose SNES games. I don't know, nothing I'm looking for in particular. Got a boxed copy of Ninja Warriors for $4.99. Is that reasonable? I don't know. I know some of these games. I think that's a pretty valuable game. And so, in the box, if it's got everything, maybe that's a decent price. I don't know. A loose copy of Street Fighter 2. $30. That seems reasonable. I've only ever seen this game. I think this is only the second time I've ever seen this game in person. And this one is in really good shape. The first time I saw this game, it was in really bad shape. So I don't know, $30. That might be reasonable. I actually considered buying that, but I didn't. Got a Master System for $140. Does it come with the? I don't think it comes with the games. One of the games has a price tag on it, $20 for Afterburner. But I see the phaser there, so if it's a controller and a phaser, it's kind of high, but it's not crazy. Some loose SNES games. $15 for $15 for Stunt Race FX. That's reasonable. $40 for Super Mario All Stars. It's not terrible. A Genesis 2 for $70. Yeah, that's a little high. NES for $110. It's got the hookups. Little power adapter wasn't the official original one, but I don't know. Controller looks like it's in good shape. Not great, not terrible. Well, there's 3 Game Boy Colors and 3 GBAs, but I still haven't seen any modded ones. So, yeah, I don't know what the price is on those. They're too far away. I don't think I'm gonna be able to get the prices on those. But they were behind a counter. near where you cash out, and that's where I remember in that video seeing the modded ones. But again, no modded ones in sight. Pokemon Pinball in the box. That's cool. I don't remember seeing the price, but some boxed NES games and SNES games. A boxed Ninja Gaiden 2. What do we got? $65 for Pitfall. Street Fighter 2. 120. That's kind of steep, but they're in good shape. It's cool to see. Bunch of boxed Game Boy games on the right there too. Oh, those NES games maybe. Dick Tracy for NES, Lion King for SNES, Game Boy. I'm gonna say Game Boy. A 2DS. $300. I think that says $300. Is that like a rare color or something? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That maybe that's a like a rare color or something, but I don't know. It looks cool. Looks cool. Ah, boxed Sonic 2 and a bunch of loose. Yeah, Streets of Rage 2. 2 copies of. Oh shit! Streets of Rage. 2 copies of Streets of Rage 2 and Rise Star. But yeah, is it $60? I think it's $60 for Rise Star, $20 for Streets of Rage 2. I already have Streets of Rage and Streets of Rage 2 on Game Gear. I think I even have Rise Star. And then we got like a bunch of boxed Genesis games. A bunch of boxed. Yeah. Bunch of boxed Genesis games in there. We got a bunch of loose Nintendo. Wow. Bunch of loose SNES games here. What do we got here? Doom for $70. Zombies Ate My Neighbors for $60. Super Mario All-Stars for $60. That's Super Mario All-Stars with Super Mario World. No, that one might be kind of rare. Super Castlevania 4, $70. I don't know. I think like Zombies Ate My Neighbors for $60 is reasonable. We got the Power Base Converter for the Genesis. Is that $250? I mean, it's cool. It's in the box. I don't own one of those, but I don't need it. I have the FM, the one from Stone Age Gamer. That's just like the size of a cartridge and it plays your Master System games on Genesis with the FM music. But I mean, these are cool. I always kind of wanted one, but yeah, I'm not going to pay $250 for one. But in the box, I don't know. Maybe that's reasonable. What do we got here? Oh, this was... look at all these VHS tapes. And they're all in, like, plastic protectors. Lots of horror movies. Geez, yeah. Dead Zone, Candyman, Children of the Corn. That was kind of cool to see. What is this? Atari 2600 Junior. Is that $115? Yeah, no thanks. And then an NES, $130. Yeah, this guy's pricing is way too high. We saw that other one for $110, and I think we saw one for $90, if I remember correctly. Bunch of loose SNES and NES, SNES, and N64. You can see in there's some GameCube games and some PS2 games. Again, a lot of that stuff just all over the place. But yeah, what is that? $24 for Forsaken 64 and what was that Iggy's game? I forget what that was called. Iggy's Wrecking Balls or something like that. I don't know. Maybe that's reasonable. What's that? $75. Every time we find an NES, it's getting cheaper and cheaper. But like the first one we saw came with all the hookups and a controller, and I don't know. Is this one just literally the NES? I don't see anything else with it. But hey, a Lloyd's TV Sports, kind of like a Pong thing. That's cool to see. I don't know why I took a picture of that. It's like the elevator shaft, and the elevator was below us. And, one last look at just a random booth, right? It's kind of dark in here. You don't see a lot of games or any games really. And then, like, you see this. And, yeah, what we got? Mario 3, Popeye. $30 for Popeye actually might be reasonable. And, yeah, I'm not sure with that boat duel thing, the labels coming up on that. But, yeah, point is, there's a lot of booths that are like all video games, and then like most of your booths that are just like random stuff. And like this one, you never know. It's hard to tell in the video, but it was kind of a dark booth. My phone did a good job of making it look not so dark, but it was like really dark, and you had just like one thing, little glass box or whatever, a little display box thing, and you had like 4 NES games in there or whatever. So there was a lot of booths that had a few games. There was a lot of booths where it was too dark. I didn't even consider taking pictures. And again, a lot of booths with a lot of like 360 and PS2 games. I didn't even bother. So we maybe saw like a third of the video games. This place is huge. And like I went in knowing that I was going to sarcastically say something like, it's overwhelming. Because I've been to these places before. It's always overwhelming. There's so much stuff. There's so many booths. You just can't see it all. And it gets overwhelming because, like, there's just too much. You get overloaded. And, like, I was going to say that. It's the thing, to say when you're in these places. But it was like that, but then it just got ridiculous. Like, I spent like an hour just on the first floor and like not looking at everything. And, by the time I got to like the second floor, I was like, just, oh my God, like this place, it's humongous. And again, so many comic books, so many Pokemon cards, pop figures, any kind of collectible. They're like, again, if you're looking for a certain Star Wars or G.I. Joe, it's probably here. This place is ridiculously huge, and there's so many action figures and collectibles. Even if I only showed you like half of the video games, there's a fair bit of video games here. But like, again, I didn't know how many video games were going to be here. I would say there was like more than I was expecting. I really didn't know what to expect. I knew it was a big antique store, and I knew there was lots of toys and collectibles and action figures, and I knew that there was like some video games, but I would say there was more video games than I was expecting. This place is freaking humongous, and like even the first floor, I wasn't really rushing, but I didn't like look at everything. So you could easily spend 3 hours in this place and not see everything. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's really cool. Again, I've been to a lot of these kinds of places before, and I think this is the biggest one I've ever been to. So yeah, it's like a really cool place. I would like to go back. I felt kind of guilty being here without my wife. Even though, she's working and it's my day off, and I'm like, I'll look for Christmas presents, I guess. But I ended up not buying anything. And like a lot of these places I go to, again, it's overwhelming, and I never buy anything because like you might see something cool 10 minutes in, 15 minutes in, 20 minutes in. But again, you got to spend at least 3 hours to see, not even see everything. God, you could spend 4 hours in this place looking at everything. And, for example, I saw like a Brownie, those old Kodak Brownie cameras. I saw one of those like 15 minutes in, and it was like $35, and it was in really good shape. The handle was intact, no chips. It was like one of the better ones I've seen. I've seen a lot of these things before, but like, I don't really know what they're worth. I saw this one. It was in really good shape. It was $35. I was like, that seems okay. But I was in this place for like 3 hours, well, 2.5 hours. Like, this was 15 minutes in, and like, an hour and a half later, I saw another one that wasn't in as good of shape, and it was more money. I think it was like $45. So at that point, I'm like, okay, well, like the first one was cool, but I don't know. I saw so much stuff, and it's overwhelming. And a lot of these places I go to, and I never end up buying anything. And I think, like, if this place was like a quarter of the size, I might have actually bought something, because I don't know, I wouldn't have felt so overwhelmed. I wouldn't have felt like, again, with the Kodak camera, you see the first one and you're like, I'm probably going to see more of these, you know? And like the next one I see might be cheaper. But honestly, with that, like I said, the first one I saw was the cheaper one, and it was in really good shape. And I almost thought like I'll go back and get it, and I couldn't remember where it was. Even just knowing what floor it's, this place is huge. It's freaking huge. It's very overwhelming. So I bought nothing. But like, it was still cool to see everything. It was still cool to see those boxed Game Boys, and like, you know, even though I didn't buy anything, I think I'll go back to this place with my wife when we both have a day off. And I don't know. Maybe I'll buy something the second time I'm there, but I don't feel bad at that I didn't buy anything, but I always feel bad. I always feel bad when I go to these places and I don't buy anything, like for the sake of the store. I'm like, I should buy something. But what? Like, there's just too much choice. It's very overwhelming. I was going to say that ironically, the first 15 minutes I was here, and after like an hour and I was just finishing the first floor, I was like, fuck, it's not even funny. It's not even ironic. It's like tiring, this place. There's just so much stuff. This place is huge, but definitely like worth checking out. But like, definitely recommend this place. It's in Woodstock, Ontario. If anyone's in the same area as me, or I don't know how many, a few of you are, but for most of you, this is just some random place in Canada that you're never going to go to, but you know, it's cool. If you're in the area, check it out, but like, set aside at least 3 hours, if not 4 hours, to check out everything. Anyways, that's it. See you guys later.